Serif Ba. Al nimbar, Serifo. Ane alaj. Al nimbar. All right, assalamu alaikum, and thank you for tuning in. This time around, I guess I'm going to try to have a wider reach based on the issues surrounding our politics in the Gambia at this very point in time. So for those of you that can understand it, I got that tune, Jaliba. I usually go back to music when I need to recalibrate myself and reflect on some of the issues. Like Jaliba is saying, if we focus on divisions amongst ourselves, then unity will elude us. And that is what is happening right now in the Gambia. Well, not in the Gambia per se, but on this platform that I'm sharing with you, on other platforms that are online, it seems that is what is pervading our online discussions. Now, the fact is not lost on me and many others that less than 15% of Gambians are actually connected to the internet. And by the internet, we mean all kinds of internet, whether it's social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and all the other internet platforms. So less than 15% of the population is connected on there. So you would think that the discussions that are going online are not going to have far-reaching consequences on the ground. People on the ground will tell you that things are normal in the Gambia, everybody's going about their businesses, and that is the way we want it, and that is going to stay because that's the nature of Gambians. But we cannot have a platform and people with a platform coming out and spewing nonsense on their platforms just because they can. And you have other people listening to it, and then the discussion gets wider and wider, and then it, overshadows everything else that is going on in the country. We cannot just sit down and watch that. Like I said, I know it's only less than 15% of people in the Gambia who are connected to the internet, but these messages have a way of reaching the people. And for those of us who are not on the ground, people who are away, they would think that the issue is bigger than it actually is, when in fact it's not the case. But nonetheless, it is not something that we should welcome or sit down and watch, because these things have a way of blowing themselves out of proportion, and before we know it, we have a whole new issue to contend with. And I think you all know what I'm talking about with this current political climate going on, and people accusing each other and personalities of things that are unfounded, that have no basis in fact, and they just keep promoting it. So we cannot just ignore it and allow it to fester. So if we discount the purveyors of this toxic narrative that is pervading our political discourse, like I said, it can set a dangerous precedent for the Gambia, and we cannot afford to have that. So those of you that have a platform, I've made a video earlier on, and I made this request. Please, just 1 second, please. Yeah, like I was saying, if you have a platform and people listen to you, you owe it to those people to give them facts. Whatever issue you're discussing or topic you're discussing, give them facts. Don't just be there because that is your opinion. You sell it out on your platform and then expect people to just accept it because it's your opinion. If you own a platform and you call yourself a journalist or somebody who is disseminating information, you owe that responsibility. You owe people that much, at least out of respect, to give them the information that they require. And one other important thing is the fact that the people who are on these platforms talking about this whole issue of tribalism, wherever they got that from, they don't actually influence policy, which is a good thing. They don't influence any policy. But policymakers always gauge the the temperature or the political climate in any situation, or they want to know what is going on the ground. So they listen to people who can convey messages to them so that they know what's going on. Those are the people who influence policies. So if they listen to you, you owe it to at least present the facts to them. And secondly, if all you engage yourself in is just spewing nonsense on your platform, what that's going to do is alienate people. People will stop listening to you because time is precious. People don't want to sit down, listen to your radio station online or whatever medium you have, and all you're talking about is negative stuff that you have no basis for, you have no facts for, you cannot even make a logical argument based on. People are going to think, hey, you know what? I'm not going to sit down here, waste my time listening to this. I'm not going to gain anything. So what that does is eventually, if you have something relevant to say, you've already been sidelined. People are not listening to you anymore. You have no relevance. So that is a disservice to the nation. It's a disservice to yourself. It's a disservice to everybody. So when you are talking, please, and you have a platform, make sure you are telling people information that can be helpful, either to them, to the nation as a whole, or anybody who's listening to you. That is the important fact that we always need to remember if you call yourself a journalist or somebody with a platform. So like I said, politics is all about persuasion. You sell your agenda, you earn people's trust, and convince them to join your platform. That's all politics is. Whatever you're selling, whether it's an ideology, whether it's some material, whatever it is you're selling, you convince people that, hey, this is the product you need. Come and get it from me. Or my ideology, I think it sounds right because I believe, give them logical explanations for them to reach their own conclusion. That's what politics is all about. So you're not going to have one uniform way of looking at things. That is impossible. Nobody can have one approach to everything that is going on. We're bound to have differences in that. That is what politics is. So when you're frustrated because people are not buying your narrative, they're buying somebody else's narrative, you lash out. And what do people do? Usually they go for a very, very cheap shot and very low under the belt. That's how they go. Because you cannot argue your point based on facts. So what do? You just go into sentiments. You sensationalize things and you tap into people's emotions. And that is wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. To start with, when people make these arguments and these accusations of tribalism that they're talking about, or there's tribal politics in the Gambia, where they get that idea from, I have I don't know. I can't explain it. There is no such thing as tribal politics in the Gambia. There never was. But I guess people don't care. They don't want to listen to or research their facts. They don't want to look back into history. All they want to do is tap into people's emotions. Hey, this is tribal stuff going on here. Let us do something about it. And whenever they talk about this issue of tribalism, there's only one tribe that they have in mind. And that is unacceptable. You don't expect to attack people and have them just sit down and not do anything about it. They are, of course, going to react. They're going to retaliate. And some of them are going to come after you the same way you came after them, or even harder. So there is no gain for anybody in that. Let us maintain our unity that we have in that country. So like I said, the people who perpetrate this kind of narrative usually build their argument on a false premise. And what is the false premise here? They start off their argument by saying that our politics is based on tribes. Why? Because majority of Gambians, they say, are illiterate. And to them, illiteracy is uneducated. Like if you're illiterate, you are uneducated. And illiteracy is basically you can't read or write. That doesn't mean that you don't know anything. So in general, even making that statement is insulting. To say that people are illiterate. So because you make that flawed argument that people are illiterate, they are unable to make informed decisions or political decisions based on policy. So what do they look for? They are going to start looking for other areas where they share some affinity with the person advancing that political ideology. They will cite regionalism, or they're from the same area, that is why they're supporting him, or they're the same religion, that's why they're supporting him, or they're the same race, that's why they're supporting him. And the Gambian favorite, they're from the same tribe, that's why they're supporting that person. So you've not just insulted the whole entire country by saying that they're illiterates, they don't know anything, which a lot of people didn't sit in a classroom. But is that what your sense of education is? That if you sit in a classroom, then you are educated? All you learn in school, in our form of school system, is just descriptive. They tell you what is, science and how does it work and all that. You have no clue. You will go to the village and those women will teach you how much water is too much for a plant. They will teach you how to mulch a plant. They will teach you all kinds of stuff regarding their vegetable gardens that you have no idea about, and you have your PhD sitting down somewhere working for the United Nations. You don't know anything about agriculture. You think that's not education? They have a knowledge based on what they have practiced their whole entire life. So people have this wrong or flawed premise that they try to build their argument on without any substance. So they will tell you that because people are illiterate, they cannot make informed political decisions. So what are you trying to say? We should take away their voting rights until they are able to do that they are able to make informed political decisions, or we should decide for them. That's kind of the similar scenario that led to the creation of the Electoral College in the United States, because people are not informed enough about political issues that they need a group of people, elites, who can choose for them who their leader is going to be. That's true. Like when people talk tribalism, they only have one tribe in mind. And you don't expect people to sit down and not do something about it. So like I said, when you think that people are not informed enough to make their own decisions about what they want in life, you have to have people who are educated in your mind to come together and decide for them who their leaders are supposed to be. That is disenfranchising those people to start with. Now, having that notion in itself tells you, or tells the people or your audience, how ill-informed you are about your own political history. When this book came out, everybody was celebrating it. Oh, Sarada made a book, and everybody should go and get a copy of this, and don't just buy a copy and keep it because you have a copy. Read inside it and learn about the genesis of Gambian politics. Then you would know why politics is the way it is in the Gambia. We cannot just sit down here and then make accusations of tribalism when you don't even know how politics started in the Gambia. Just because your ideology is not in the spotlight, or the people are not embracing it as much as you want them to embrace it, doesn't mean that they're against you because of your tribe, or they're supporting the other candidate because of... people are more informed than you think they are regarding political issues. Everybody knows what they want for their children. Why do you think they wake up every day to go to their farms? As hard as it is, why do you think they wake up and go to the markets to do their daily transactions? So these things are not based on anything but your own ill-informed narrative and the false premise that you're trying to build. So it is an either-or situation. They are not informed about policy, so the only way they're going to have some political affinity or ideology with a certain party is tribe. And then what you're doing then is that fallacy in argument, where you leave the what is called the excluded middle. Between those two scenarios, a whole lot of issues are taking place that you try, or actually intentionally ignore, because it doesn't fit your narrative. And I'm sure people who are peddling this narrative, they know more than they are letting on. It just suits their narrative, because in the art of persuasion, you go after different forms to persuade people. Your logic is not working with them. Your facts are not settling with them. Everything you try is not working with them, so you take a cheap shot. It is because they are tribal. That is what Yahya Jammeh gave us, and the people responded to him. You have seen how the people responded, and you think you're going to be able to peddle the same narrative and then the people will follow you. It's not going to work like that. The Gambian people are more informed than you think they are. Now, like I said, it is because you are ill-informed about history. That's why you're making that narrative. If those people are illiterate or uneducated like you say they are, when the March for Independence started in the Gambia in the 1960s and politics was taking root, what happened? Those people you will consider illiterates today were the people who transformed the political landscape in the Gambia. They swept those well-educated, well-informed, seasoned politicians who have been on the political field way before they came. They swept them off into irrelevance. I'm talking about the likes of Sanjali Bojang, the likes of Jumbo Bojang, and the likes of Famara Wasature. These were the people who formed and campaigned for the PPP that led us to independence. Before they came on the scene, there was the likes of J.C. Faye, there was the likes of I.M. Gaba Jahumpa, and many others, and P.S. Njai. In fact, who was the first person, I made a video earlier on, who made the claim about tribal politics in the Gambia with no basis, just because his privileged position is now threatened by the majority in the country. He was the first person to lay that claim, and it's published in Barclay Rice's book. where you can go. And a lot of our history, unfortunately, is not written, but that is one document that every Gambian should cherish. And in there, he made that claim that you cannot, because the alliance between the PPP and the UP didn't go, what do you call it, an understanding or an arrangement. It didn't work out. And when he was interviewed about why it didn't work out, all he had to say was, you cannot trust these Mandinkas. They have no honor, no dignity. That's the cheap shot he took. He saw all the facts there. Prior to those people, the Protectorate People's Society coming on the political scene, what obtained was your typical apartheid system, where the country, the Gambia, was divided into the colony area, where those who were born in the colony were citizens, and those who were born in the hinterland were known as the Protectorate people, and those were the subjects. They didn't have voting rights, even representation. The colonial administration chose who their representatives were going to be for them. They had no say in who was going to represent them in parliament. So these people that were in the colony area, they had all those privileges. They can go to school. So if people point to injustice or oppression, they can say, hey, look, we have this person working for the government. This person has been to school, and this person is in the House of Parliament or represented. They gave voting rights and subjected it or restricted it only to the colony area, while leaving the majority of the country in the hinterland unrepresented, without a voice. So these politicians were okay with that status quo. Like the names I mentioned, J.C. Faye, P.S. Njai, I am Gabo Jahomba, they were okay with the status quo. All they were campaigning for is, to get into parliament, to be part of the decision-making process, or to get positions, whatever it is. They ignored the fact that members of their fellow citizens are disenfranchised, and they were not campaigning in any way to extend the voting rights into the country. The only person who ventured into the hinterland was Edward Francis Small, when he did his tours in Barangar and was campaigning on the platform of no taxation without representation. He was more of a trade unionist than a politician. This was the guy who was taking the narrative out to the people, who was trying to fight for the people to be represented. He was the only one out of all those politicians. Now, they were okay with the status quo and fighting for dominance between themselves in the colony area while forgetting the hinterland. But because everything is concentrated in the colony, people obviously migrate, just like we migrated from Africa to come here because the opportunities are more plentiful in the West. We migrated. Those people also did what we call the rural urban drift. They came down to the colony area, they became laborers and they became petty traders just so they could earn a living and send some money back or take care of their families. The people from the Combos, Combo Santolto, the people from Kiang, Jara, from, Bolonkono and Badibu and Nyomi, they came into the colony area and they saw the opportunities that were prevalent there. But when the political season starts, they see there's no representation for their people. So we have all these groups that were there. They were formed and they were known as the Protectorate People's Society. You have the Nyomi and Kombole Laiwarasuri Kafo, and then you have the Fankanta Kafo, you have the Kamben Kafo and Janjambure, and all these different Kafos. We even have similar things in America or in Europe. Take, for example, an association like Ajera. They are set up specifically to help build that community of Gambians who are in Atlanta specifically, but generally in America, to come to each other's help whenever the need arises. How many times have they helped people, give them some money so that they can transport or evacuate their dead bodies to go back to the Gambia? We're doing the same in present day, Western civilization. Those people did the same back then. When they came to the Combos and the colony area in Banjul, they faced challenges because they had no relatives there. People ignored them. It was all highlighted in the book in Karaba, where the people even struggled to have people take care of their dead bodies for them. They form their associations. Whenever there is a bereavement, they will put money together and send some people to take the body back to their families to be taken care of. So these associations were present. There was some rivalries among them. At some point, Sanjali Bojang gave his support to the Democratic Congress Alliance of JC5, and then you have Ibrahim Njai, who was another prominent protectorate person who gave his support to PS Njai when the politics was going on. But at some point, they realized that they were just pawns used to advance the political agenda of these existing political parties. So they came together and said, you know what, we need to form a political party. Jawara was instrumental in that. He saw the division between them. For whatever reason, they were divided amongst themselves. So he, in his book, said that he went and approached Sanjali Boja and told him, you know, you guys need to unite. There's a lot of potential here. Because in the midst, you know, they get these people who are from the hinterland but are able to go to school, like Jawara and Marena. In fact, Marena was the first who was approached to lead the PPP when it was formed into a political party. He was a veterinarian, but he knows that his work was mostly concentrated into the hinterland. He had to have these people on board with him. So he was instrumental in uniting these people. They came together, and when they realized their potential, they transformed themselves into a political party. The Protectorate People's Society became the Protectorate People's Party. That is how the politics evolved. So with the change in constitution and the voting rights being campaigned for and the extension going into the hinterland, P.S. Njai, Gabi Jahumpa, and J.C. Faye and all the political players knew the potential for their political careers. So there was some resistance as to the formation of the PPP. But that didn't stop them. You know, I'll get a quote from here that was, I'll read directly from the book here, just kind of like to give a little bit of insight into how the Gambian politics evolved to where we are today. So in Caraba on page 186, it says, the 1959 Basse meeting came out with far-reaching decisions about political representation. A group of chiefs led by Sefo Mama Tamba Jamme of Upper Badibu and Sefo Jeuru Krubali of Fuladu, Fuladu East, argued strongly for provincial constituencies to be represented by their own people instead of by colony people. Like I said, these people appoint people for them. Like you say, oh, you, there's actually a name mentioned here. So he goes further down and says, despite the conservative and sometimes parochial language in which the chiefs put some of their arguments, the bottom line of the message was that provincials were calling for more involvement in national development and to interpret their own interests through their own representatives. To my mind, these were fundamental changes in political thinking, said Jawara. On the sidelines, the Protectorate People's Society was selling a similar program to the political establishment to recognize it and to bring provincial issues into the mainstream. That didn't work out, like I said. The call by the chiefs was so strong that its effects were almost immediate. Henry Maddy, who was a businessman, stood up in the meeting, stood there and then, and announced that he would not be running for re-election to the Legislative Council in the Combo district seat, which he had held since 1951. He was convinced that it was time that a Combo-born person was represented, or a Combo-born person represented the district. This was the evolution that was taking place. As Maddy, that Mahdi family that you know, Saib and A. Mahdi and all that, they, one of the Mahdis was representing Combo in the parliament. He was not elected by the people of Combo. He probably doesn't even know what their issues were, but at that time, he was just somebody who had to take part in the political decision making. See, that's how capitalism works. You know, we're talking about the 1% in the West here. It's the same thing. There are people who were there who had privileges, and to maintain that privilege, they had some political power. So, you know, to give it a semblance of democracy, when in fact it was oppression all along. That's what colonialism is. But the establishment, you know, politicians were okay with that. So we don't just read this book and just say, oh, that was Karaba's book. It was not. That is your political evolution of the Gambia in there. You know, bear with me, this video is probably going to be long, but, you know, like, we need to stop this false narrative where you just peddle a narrative or say it's my opinion based on no facts, while in the meantime you're creating division in a country that has been united all these years. People don't even know what the meaning of tribalism is. Tribalism is akin to racism, because we don't have races in the Gambia, we have tribes. Anything that happened in here, from the slave trade to now, that was racism. Do we have something like that in the Gambia? And the similar thing happened in Rwanda. And who are the losers there? It's the Gambians. And you have a platform and being so irresponsible, you know, like I said, the Gambia's internet reach is not that much. But these things have a way of sticking. And people start talking about it, and then it degenerates. And, you know, finds its way into the common platforms or in the villages and what have you. It is irresponsible. Because look at it, the Hutus will kill the Tutsis. With what motive in mind? We're going to rid this country of Tutsis. The Tutsis were killing the Hutus, saying we're going to rid this country of Hutus. Eventually what happened? There was reconciliation. All those Hutus who died, they died in vain. All those Tutsis who died in vain. Because today in Rwanda you have Hutus, you have Tutsis. So all those lives lost for what? Nothing. Like Lawyer Dabo said, a Gambia without Jolas is not a Gambia, it will be called something else. A Gambia without Manjagos is not a Gambia, it will be called something else. A Gambia without Mandinkas or Fullers, it will be called something else, it's not the Gambia. So let us stop peddling this nonsense that people are supporting other people based on tribe. It is not based on tribe, it is a difference in ideology. What resonates with people is what they will support. And you thinking that because they are uneducated or they didn't sit in a classroom, they cannot make informed decisions about their political future, that is a flawed argument. Because like I said, if Sanjali Bojang and the likes of Jumbo Bojang, who have not sat in a classroom, could come and send PS Njai, JC Fair, and all those establishment politicians into irrelevance because they came on the political scene, you think those people have no political capital or they are not politically mature or educated? They know what they want. If that does not resonate with what you're selling, they're not going to buy it. So if the person selling it happens to be from the same tribe as them, but his message resonates, they're going to support him. But we have all this misinformation going around on the online media and people saying all kinds of stuff that they have no basis in fact for. So like I said, when this thing came out, like when they realized they were pawns, they decided to form a political party. And when the franchise was extended into the country, the people embraced them. The message was immediate and it was effective. So that's how the PPP became popular, and then the people embraced it from that day on because they brought the franchise to them. So you've been in a country where you've been disenfranchised all these years, and then somebody comes to you and campaigned and advocated for you to be included in the national decision-making process until you finally got it. You think the Gambian are ungrateful people? They are not. These are the people who knew that they needed to be part of the national discourse, and they embraced them. So if they tell them that we are going to develop the country, they will believe them. That's how the PPP stayed on for like 30 years plus. Even when Yahya Jammeh came, they embraced him based on that same principality, even though he was deceitful. They embraced him because why? He resonated with them. It was like the PPP have promised you all these things all these years, and look at where the country is now. He sold his point so well, the people embraced him until he started his divisiveness. When the people saw the dangers in that divisiveness, they stood up and said, we're not going to tolerate this. If that is not political education, I don't know what is. They knew the potential for Yahya Jammeh's divisive tactics, and that was geared towards nothing other than his own perpetuation or self-perpetuation in power. So they rejected him. And to you, those people are ill-informed, and those people are illiterates. What illiteracy is to you, I do not know, but those people are not. And unless and until people start to realize that the Gambian people should not be patronized when it comes to politics, or that you should look down upon them, or you should be condescending when you talk to them, your message will not resonate with them. I know some people are not going to like this, but there was this video that I was watching of Sidiya that I have the utmost respect for that man. If there is one person who should be, accorded national medals every year, that person, Sidiya Jata should, Halifa Saleh should, all these political players should, because they gave too much for that country. I don't have any difference in, no disrespect for him. I have the utmost respect for him because he did something I couldn't do. And he was well-meaning and well-intentioned for doing that. Just like Lawyer Dabo was, just like Hamad Ba. They all did something for that country. No matter how small it looks in your eye, they did something for that country. But one of his videos, he was talking, the way it came out, it's kind of like he was patronizing the people, and a lot of people picked up on it. There was a discussion on Facebook that I contributed to. People picked up on it. The way he was selling his message sounded like he was frustrated. He has a good platform. The things he wants to do for the country are great. But the way he's delivering the message, the people are not getting it. And out of that frustration, he, talked in a way that is kind of patronizing. And when you turn your back, those people, those elders will go and sit at the Bantaba and say, hey, even though that was not your intention, that's how they're going to interpret it, and there's nothing you can do about it. You see these people out in the countryside, these Mandinka elders, that I'm saying that because out in the country, Mandinkas, because of their traditional roles in society as farmers and traders, they settled in the hinterland. And when PS Njai made that accusation that there was tribal politics because the hinterland was voting now, if you look at the constituency, a lot of people in the hinterland are Mandinkas. Not that they're the only ones there, but largely they're settled in those places. So on the face of it, it looks true because they embrace these people because they are one of them. So obviously they're going to share some qualities or some similarities with one another. But when they sit down there, Bantaba, they will say, this guy came here and insulted us. He thinks we don't know what we're doing. So that message is not going to resonate with them. And when people reject a certain political ideology, it's not because of the leader of that party. People are capable of making decisions beyond that. Even in the midst of all that PPP-UP rivalry back in the day, my dad used to tell me there was a time people would wake up in the morning and instead of saying Kairalata, which was Jawara's, because Jawara's name is Kairaba, instead of saying Kairalata, they used to say Peralata. Like in Mandinka, Kairalata, Kairadoro. Instead of saying that, because that was Jawara's name, they didn't support his politics, they didn't support his political ideology. They would say Peralata, Per, because they were supporting PS Nyai. If those people were in politics based on tribe, you think they would be saying that? They would embrace Jawara no matter what he did. And if you look at history, that, like I said, because the narrative suits, your premise suits your narrative doesn't mean that it's true. When Jawara was in power, his main opposition, we even say it today, yow suma NCP nga o karita muna NCP la. Why do they say that? Because NCP was the largest political party that was opposing the PPP regime. Serif Deba was a Mandinka. Jawara was a Mandinka. None of them were more Mandinka than the other. Why would he oppose him if that was a Mandinka party? Until late 90s or early 2000s, PDOIS was headed by Sidia Jata. He was a Mandinka. Dr. Bolondim Boja, who formed the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, is a Mandinka. They all opposed Jawara. If that was a Mandinka outfit or establishment, you think they would be doing that? And people conveniently rejected that notion and that fact, but they peddled that narrative into the APRC regime, and Yahya Jammeh, gave it a huge platform, and everybody just embraced it and say, yeah, that's a fact. It is true. Jawara never won in Badibu, except for Sabah Senjal, where Shehu Sabali was from, mostly. Serif always won Lower Badibu, Central Badibu. Baka was his. So too was parts of Kiang and Jar. So if Yahya Jammeh came and he didn't win those places, he says it's tribalism because those places were majority Mandinka. But in the whole entire Fonyi, nobody opposes Yahya Jammeh there. But you don't hear people crying tribalism there. What they say is he is one of them. He is from Fonyi, so it is natural that for the people of Fonyi to embrace him because now, like Ahmed Jita will say, Nyofu Kalamalam. People from other regions had the chance to rule. Fariman Singate and Sadauda, they all had the chance to rule. If it's the turn for Fonyi to rule, it's okay if the people of Fonyi embrace him. Because there's some kind of pride in that one of our sons is the president. People had no problem with that. Nobody cried out tribalism. And today, these things can all be reversed. We can do a reversal. Sidia Jata, like I said, headed the PDOIS. From its formation until the early 2000s when Salifa Saleh took over, the PDOIS remained to a large extent, I would say stagnant because that might be disrespectful, but their numbers didn't grow as much as they would have liked it because they've been on the political scene for so long. But suddenly now everybody's, pushing the agenda for PDOIS. Should the other people also say that it's because of tribalism? Because when Sidia was there, you didn't support the party. It can be twisted both ways, but neither of them would be true. So we should try and avoid, those kinds of issues. And what is most disheartening of it is the fact that we change these things into personal attacks. What is wrong in having a difference in political ideology? Even in the West, there is differences. You have the conservatives, you have the center-right and the far-right. They all have political ideologies. But you don't hear them, shouting and insulting each other, accusing each other of racism. Individuals could be, yeah. But when you see that, we all point it out and call it out and say we don't need that kind of rhetoric in this country. But then you go around and saying that this is happening because of one factor, tribe, and then you ignore all other aspects. That is doing, injustice. We shouldn't be promoting that. And like I said, what is most disheartening of it all is we've been praising Lawyer Dabo a few months ago when he finally decided enough is enough. When he stepped out that day to go and confront Yahya Jammeh or his men and claim Solo Sandeng's dead body, what he did, he knew there would be consequences. But if you ask him in the back of his mind, what his mind was telling him in the back of his mind, what he was thinking is, if I go out, I'm going to get murdered. I might not come back. And he even stated it in his press conference before he left. To go to prison, He was not expecting that. Even if he went, he would expect that they were going to kill him in silence. But he risked it because this cannot be done anymore. What he did there was to show the Gambian people the excesses that the tyrant was ready to go to in order to maintain himself in power. So if today we are not going to be grateful for doing that, we're saying he did it for political purposes. Everybody acts in a selfish way, every politician, because they believe their platform, their ideology is the best ideology to move the country forward. So they're selfish in our interests. But if we're going to diminish that and then start claiming that he should have been in jail, he should have rotted in jail, we all seen how mild too is. And people can come out today and say that, it's not surprising. Like I said, get this book. I'm doing a free promo for Kairaba. Get this book, read it and reflect deep. Talk to yourself. Reflect on every point that is made there. When the people came to ask Jawara, they first went to Dr. Lamin Marina to head the PPP, and he didn't. So Jawara was pointed out, and they went to him. But he had to consult his family, he had to consult his friends, and talk to people and seek advice before he accepted that role, because it was a huge responsibility. So he said he went to get advice from some person named Landing Kotorinjane, who gave him this advice. He warned him with candor to be watchful. He said people were fickle, and in particular he warned, I'm quoting him directly now, he said people, he said, were fickle, and in particular he warned me that the ones who come to lift you up would be the very ones who will pull you down. So when he told his wife at that time that this is what the old man told me, the wife said, actually there is a Bible passage or relationship that can be, I can cite for you from the Bible. So he said, the wife told him, those who cried Hosanna would be the same ones who would later shout, crucify him. There's some lessons to be learned there. The same lawyer Davo that a few months ago, people were even on the radio stations crying out, calling out Gambians, how can you sit down and let Yaya Jammeh do this to lawyer Davo and you don't come out on the streets? How can you do this? People were crying. Today, they're coming out and saying the man is selfish. He doesn't deserve anything. He's the one who is ruining this whole coalition thing. And all he did was propose an alternative to the parliamentary elections. Why can we not just discuss the merits of running a candidate as an independent versus running them as a, as a tactical alliance? Indeed, there's a lot of political history in Kairaba. That people, it's not just Jawara's story, that is Gambia's story. Jawara is Gambia, whether people like it or not. Because, those formative years of the country, he was at the helm of it. So every aspect of his life has some relationship to the political history of the Gambia. So we shouldn't forget that. Like I said, there's different approaches in politics. Like they said, there's different ways to skin a cat. So if the PDRS agenda was, let us go for an independent, in fact, let us look at what is happening right now. People are saying that Adam Barrow is a UDP candidate. Don't be fooled by him being resigning from the party and running as independent. He's UDP. True, his ideology is UDP because he was a member of the party, but he resigned out of respect for the coalition to run. So now he cannot promote a UDP agenda. We have seen so far on his meeting, he's saying all the parties in the coalition are members of the coalition. So out of those people that are put up there, see the best candidate who can represent your area and send him to the National Assembly. Don't vote for the opposition, which is the GDC and the APRC. So he can no longer sell the UDP agenda. That is what it means resigning from the UDP. Ideology-wise, he's UDP, but he has to put that to the side. But people are going out there shouting, oh, he's Dabo's son, he's a UDP child, don't be fooled by him resigning from... You were saying that. But then it is okay to come around and say, hey, people can resign from their parties. The parties will still sponsor them, but they will run as independents. Isn't that the same? Like, there is an advantage to that, but there's also a disadvantage. So people are bound to lean both ways because they see the advantages in this side and they see the advantages on that side. So what is left now is to discuss the issues. We see where the weight is in terms of merits. We go with that one. But as soon as the idea came out, these people want independence approach and these people want tactical alliance approach. Boom, we go after the personalities. And it didn't stop there. We start the name calling. We are the same people who are here calling out and crying and yelling and screaming. Confront Yajam, confront Yajam. They all did it in their own little ways. None of them should be, none of their efforts should be diminished in any way. Khalifa said it, he doesn't have a problem with Dabo. Dabo doesn't have a problem with Khalifa. They have a difference in ideology and approach. If we're going to apportion blames, everyone has a share in that blame. Even you and I, because Yahya Jammeh stayed in that country for 22 years because the Gambian people voted for him. He used force, he used Gambians to do his bidding. Politicians made mistakes in the past. Everyone has a part to play in what is obtaining. So trying to apportion it to one person and then by extension, his whole tribe with no basis on anything is divisive. And it is a very, very dangerous precedent that people are setting. Because one thing is you don't attack a person's race. You don't attack their religion, which is even a choice. Somebody chose to be a Muslim or a Christian. They can abandon it if things get tough. But you attack them, you reach deep down to their core and you offend them in a way that nothing else will offend them. So we're sitting down here in our comfort zones, peddling this tribal nonsense where it doesn't exist. Or people are tribalists, that's why they're supporting this party. And if that country, thank God they don't listen to people peddling that. Like I said, the 15% of Gambians who are online, they have no policy influence. They cannot influence any policy. They're just being seen out loudmouth. But imagine if those people were on the ground. Set the country on fire while you're sitting down in your comfort zones in the West. What are you doing to the country? The only person who loses in this is the Gambia. So if the issues come out, let us discuss them as the issues and avoid the personalities. That is not going to take us anywhere. Lawyer Dabo gave a lot for the Gambia, and if you're not going to appreciate that or thank him for it, don't denigrate him, don't vilify him. Khalifa gave a lot for the Gambia, and if he is not thanks for it, we shouldn't vilify him either. But he is not beyond criticism, just as Dabo is not beyond criticism. If they took an approach that we see as not having benefit for majority of the people, we are within our rights to criticize him. Hey, we think you should do it this other way. But this notion is my opinion. Everybody has an opinion, but there's a sense of responsibility that you need to put across as well. You don't butt heads together with people or try to set the country on fire just because you have freedom of speech. And some people are even saying, like Yahya Jammeh didn't have to deal with this because he silenced everybody. As bad as that was, I'm not going to say that it was a good thing, because it is not. But if there is no responsibility in the statements that you're going to make, why should you not be gagged? If you're going to make a statement, like on the online radios, you bring people because they have an opinion to come and express that opinion. And you don't have the same people, similar people on that panel who are going to counter that same opinion. Present the facts. This is what is going on. This candidate is winning in this place. Why do you think it's happening? Or this candidate helped in this way or that way. He was always involved in, social programs. And I think that is why he has that edge. But you're not doing that. You bring somebody, I heard this is happening with no facts. And that prompted D.A. Jao to send out a press release. In a way, it's a cry for help. Hey, there's the Ministry of Information here. If you need something about the government, contact us. We will clarify as best we can. I called this minister, I didn't get him. What is the Ministry of Information for? That's what journalists do. You try this person, you didn't get him, try the other person. If the story is such that it is full, it is all over the airwaves, tell people, hey, we heard this is going on and that's going on. We're trying to verify it. So far, we cannot get people in authority to come and corroborate the story or denounce the story or whatever. And then you wait. But then you bring people, come and give your opinion on what is going on here. Then people get polarized before the evidence even comes out. And as soon as the evidence comes out, boom, you jump to the other story. No apologies, no clarifications, nothing. You have a responsibility if you have a platform. People are listening to you, and don't just look for that click, what we call clickbaiting. It is not going to help anybody. You're just doing a disservice to the country. If you're not up to the task, just, step outside. And all these self-appointed analysts, you need to take a break. You cannot be a security expert. At the same time, be a financial expert, same time, be a political analyst, and be a child rights activist. Be specific. You have a certain speciality, come and talk about that. Don't just be jumping from pillar to post, telling people stuff that you have no idea about just because it's your opinion. Since when did people even... We have a lot of Gambians who are experts in law. Why can't you just call them and have a discussion with them? People who are experts in politics. They are resigned, they are accessible. They are not playing in the political field right now. Bibi Dabo is on the ground, he's a seasoned politician. Hey, you know, what do you think of the political situation in the country? He gives his opinion. His opinion will be informed because he is an expert in that field. You have people in the legal fraternity. When something happens that seems like a conflict between the communication between the departments and it's not working out, you can consult people like Sidi Sane. He was a permanent secretary, I think, at one point. Ask him about governance issues. But don't just go and pick somebody off of the street and ask him, hey, you know, did you hear what is happening? What do you think is going on here? Oh, this person is a loudmouth. This person is seeking attention. They go into personality because they are not informed about how these things work. Even in small businesses, there's a conflict between departments like the finance department, the marketing department, and all that. Everybody's trying to, you know, minimize their expenses. These people are trying to maximize profits. Whatever it is, there's always conflicts there. Especially in a marriage of convenience like we have in the Gambia, where people of different political ideologies came together just so they can boot out a tyrant. Obviously, after he goes, their differences are going to show. So all we need is to be patient and, you know, gradually walk towards where we want to see the country go to. The people on the ground, they're working, they're doing their thing. But we're here throwing shit at people, accusing them of stuff. That has got to stop. I know I'm in no authority to order people around to tell them what to do, but what I'm here to debunk is the fact that there's no tribal politics in the Gambia, and because your ideology or your agenda is not in the forefront doesn't mean that people hate you for it. Your ideology is not selling well, go back to the drawing table, come back with a better ideology. If you feel your ideology does not really adjusting, look at your communication strategy. Because either one or the other is flawed. Exactly, bureau shaping. So go back to the drawing table, revisit your message. Instead of jumping around and saying we're going to start tribal politics and form tribal political parties in the country, go back to the drawing table. If your message stinks, people are not going to buy it. If your message is okay, 100%, you feel there's nothing to adjust, change your communication strategy. But you cannot insult the whole entire country and say they're illiterates. So because of that, they cannot make informed political decisions, which means either you want to put yourself in that place where you're going to make decisions for them, which in itself is undemocratic, or you want to take away their franchise. They can't vote because they are not informed enough on political issues. So like I said, I knew this was going to be long because, you know, we can't keep talking about the same thing over and over again. People are going to have differences in issues. When they come up, bring up the issue and say this is why it is wrong. The other person will come and say, no, I think it is right because of this. Because you have a different perspective on, like, that famous picture that is going around social media. There's a number 9 written down, one person on one end of it, the other person on the other end. This person says he's seeing a 6, the person says, no, I'm seeing a 9. Your perspective shapes your view. Where you stand, it shapes how you see the world. The other person standing the other way sees the world different. You're all looking at the same thing, but you're not going to come to the same conclusion because there's so many biases. Your religion, your culture, your locality, everything shapes your view on how you see the world. And this notion that, you know, all parties in the Gambia are socialists, not socialists as in the core meaning of the word. But if you look at their agenda, they're all trying to promote welfare. Education is a priority. Agriculture is a priority. Education is a priority. And they all believe that everybody should have access to education and free education. They want to enhance agriculture so that there will be food sustainability. They want to expand healthcare and make it affordable to everybody. That is a socialist concept, not socialism as in the Karl Marx concept, but that's what it is as compared to hardcore capitalism. We blended all of them, a free market policy as well as promoting welfare rather than catering for the needs of the business community. So there's not much difference in ideology. It's just approach. And the reason why, maybe some people don't know, that the UDP is as big as it is, when Yahya Jammeh came, because he wants to perpetuate himself in power, he had to strategize. And part of that strategy was he didn't want to be seen as a liar to start with, because he said after 2 years we're going back to the barracks. But he knew he didn't want to go back to the barracks because he tasted power. So what he did was to give a semblance of sincerity. He used people at local levels to pull strings for him, get community elders, because in the Gambia we value elders. He came and tried to, rip that away from us. But what he did, call those elders, the Sefos and the Alcalos, bring some community elders together, come to State House and come and plead with me to continue as a civilian president. That was the first strategy he employed. So when those people flocked to the State House, Brikama community came today to plead with him to stay because of the immense development within the 2 years. The Nyomi community came, the Kambo community came, the Fonyi community came. So eventually, the chorus all over the country was he should resign from the army, and then be a civilian president. He became a civilian president. But he knew after 2 years there has to be elections. And for him to win, he has to position himself at an advantage. So that was not going to suffice. And then his next move was to decree that anybody who ever held the presidential position in the First Republic was not qualified to run as a political candidate in the 1996 elections, which means he disqualified Jawara. If you were ever a vice president in the First Republic, you are not qualified to run as a not qualified to run or form a political party, effectively banning Sirif Mustafa Deba and Hassan Musa Kamara, who were both vice presidents in the Jawara regime. If you were ever a minister in the PPP regime, you are not allowed to form a political party or run on a political platform for political office, which effectively banned everybody who was well known in the Gambian politics, because we had a parliamentary system where members of parliament at some point served as ministers. So all those local politicians were effectively banned. Now, a similar scenario now is repeating itself. Like I said, in the 60s, the people out in the hinterland were disenfranchised because they couldn't vote. They didn't have the voting rights. So here is Yahya Jammeh now, incapacitating all the political parties except DOI, because he didn't have any angle to attack them to start with, or because their ideology was not selling well with the people, and so he doesn't feel threatened about it. Either way, he didn't ban those two. But because they were principled, they didn't join his administration. Even though he tried to make them join the administration, they didn't. They stuck to their principles, which we should thank them for, because they could have joined the APRC or FPRC regime and the story would be different today. Ajam will use them and dump them, make them irrelevant, but they're still there. So we should thank them for that. That's one thing we should be grateful for. So when he banned all these people, PPP, NCP, GPP, PDP, everybody was banned. The people again feel disenfranchised. They don't know where to turn to. The politicians they know are no longer relevant. They can't run for office. The political parties they belong to are no longer going to be a part of the new political dispensation. What are we going to do? Disenfranchise people. If people tell you how Lawyer Dabo came on the political scene, it's because he was approached. A lot of people know him as having been the lawyer for Sirif Diba in the 1981 abortive coup, after that coup. But beyond that also, he was in the political circles a little bit, not so much. But he was a prominent lawyer that people know. Maybe because of that one incident or that representation, but he was also a lawyer that people know they could turn to when they couldn't afford, to have legal representation. He would do pro bono for them. So he was a prominent lawyer. So the people within the political circles of PPP, the political circles of NCP, they know if we approach somebody that is well known, we can actually have a chance at reviving our parties. I remember at a political rally in 1996, before the elections, Lamin Wajwara specifically said it. When he was in prison, he heard that all the parties were banned. He cried. But then eventually the news seeped through, and then he heard that Lawyer Dabo was convinced to form a party. He said, that day I ate, that day I was happy, because I knew that he was capable. Lamin Wajwara said that I was at the meeting. It was not in Kayoko. No, I was there. I heard him say it. That is why it is named the United Democratic Party, because the UDP is an amalgamation of PPP, NCP, GPP. All those supporters who were disenfranchised now see in Lawyer Dabo a person who can unify the party. They all came together. You need to know how Yahya Jammeh's strategy worked. So all these people embracing Dabo made the UDP the big political party that it is today. So they couldn't, Yahya Jammeh saw himself threatened by the emergence of this party and all the other all players flocking to him. But, he was shortchanged at that time. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't do anything right there and then. It was widely speculated Dabo won the 1996 election, but that fact will come out. Whether it is true or not, it will come out later when the investigations are going on. So when he did that narrow escape in 1996, he had to continue UDP because that was a force on the political field he didn't want to, be battling with. So the next election cycles, he decided to lift the ban. PPP was released, NCP was released, GPP was, you can all form your parties and join the elections. What he had in mind was, if I do that, I am going to fragment the UDP and these people will go back to their old parties. Since we have a simple majority, I will go back to being the president. That didn't work. Because the people, like I said, the Gambian people are loyal people, they are sincere people. They don't use you and dump you. When Lawyer Dabo formed that party and Sirif Diba came and decided to revive the NCP, the people rejected him. Remember when he had one vote in one of the polling stations? Because they saw that, hey, when your party died, this guy was a lawyer, he had a living. He could have done it all by himself, but the people approached him to form a party so that your disenfranchised supporters could find somebody who will unify them, and he came. Now that he's still in the political field, join him, but don't go against him. They didn't say it to his face, but with their vote, they told him that we're not going to support you because this guy kept your party alive when you were not able to. So Yahya Jammeh's plots and plans to kill the UDP off didn't work. Even though all these parties came back, the people still maintain loyalty because they can connect to him and the ideologies that he shared. That is why it remained a relevant party and a big party. It has nothing to do with the tribe he's from. And if you're doing that, in fact, you're also insulting the people who are in the UDP, helping the party grow, and are not Mandinkas. Single Nyasi, we know. Femi Peters, they suffered the most at the hands of Yahya Jammeh. How many times did Femi Peters go to jail? You think he will be out there suffering just because he wants to promote a Mandinka agenda? No, the political ideology resonated with him. Maintaining democracy, rule of law, and promoting welfare of the people. Single Nyasi, the same thing. The national president of the UDP, Aji Yamseka, is not a Mandinka. We can point to all these things, but those are irrelevant. The point is, when you're going to argue based on facts. Bring up the issue and say this is why the issue is the way it is. And I think it is flawed based on this or that. And the people will argue. But don't take a cheap shot and tell people that it's because of tribe. If you do that, people can flip it on the other side also and say, oh, you're supporting this other person too because of tribe. And it's not going to hold because it's not true. We are too unified for that. We never saw our differences based on any affinity to anything. All we see our differences is you support this person, we support that person. Even back in the day, during the NCP and PPP, they used to call each other names. Chalon and Kongo. You know, people will say, oh, these supporters of this particular party are, you know, Chalo, like Kobo, cheap. What did Jawa say? If they call it Chalo, I'll allow for a Kongo. Like, you know, that was what it was. It was just jovial. People called each other names. But not to the level of denigrating others. Since when do we have this audacity to be calling our elders and insulting them and calling them names just because we differ with them on ideology? They are more informed than we are when it comes to Gambian politics. And like I said, until that time that people come together and realize that Gambian politics doesn't work like any other place, Gambian politics is unique. And in order for you to appeal to the masses, you have to take a certain approach. You are not going to make inroads with them. You don't think that they are illiterate and uneducated, so they cannot make informed choices. So you want to make decisions for them or get frustrated with them and patronize them. You are not going to make any inroads with them. The people know more than you are crediting them for. So it is time that we realize that, change our approach, change our delivery of our message if it is not resonating with the people, if you want to be a relevant political player. But if you don't do that, you're going to remain irrelevant. You're going to play second fiddle to somebody else. And that's a fact. You know, you can't change that unless you want to use force, and which is not going to hold anymore because we are past that stage. So curb your frustrations, go back to the drawing board, look what part of your policy is not appealing to the people. If you think there's nothing wrong with your policy, change your approach. It is always, you know, advisable. When one cycle comes and your message didn't resonate with people, go back to the drawing board and say, we did it this way, maybe that didn't work, let's try a different way. Eventually people will come to you. But until then, let us remain the unity. We are brothers and sisters. You know, we all say that little country is too small for us to try to divide it into camps, because everybody will stand with your own and nobody is going to win. The only person who will lose, or the only loser in there, will be the Gambia. And if you care about that, you're going to make sure the Gambia wins. So thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you have a good night. Share this video. Like, you know, I don't have many friends on Facebook, but, you know, if the message resonates, I want to be part of the discussion. You know, you can start the discussion with, you know, sharing the video. Let people comment, and, you know, we'll start the discussion. If need be, we're going to start an alternative media where we're going to counter everything that is coming out of that, you know, media that's trying to divide us. We don't want that. What we want is unity. Let us discuss our political ideologies with maturity. So I'll try and do this in the local language so it will resonate with people. But I know this is long enough, and people look at the number of minutes in the video before they watch it. But this is something I'm passionate about, and, you know, I didn't plan on coming to do 15-20 minutes because there's much more to it than that. So once again, thank you, and like I said, share the video and we'll have more discussions later. Have a good night. Allah barak. Assalamu alaikum.